Okay, so there has been some protests outside Vice President-elect Mike Pence's home in Washington, D.C. I don't know if this is his permanent VP home, if it's a temporary home he's staying in during the transition, or if it's just a house he happens to have in D.C. I think it's his temporary home, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Um, he may not even be in it, but the bottom line is this is his home, right? That is the purpose that it serves. And this group of protesters, LGBT protesters, take issue with the fact that as governor of Indiana, Pence had some pretty conservative positions on gay issues. Now, first of all, I do understand that if you're gay or lesbian or transgender or bisexual, it affects you, right? And I understand the length of feeling that comes with that. But I think this sort of move is extremely stupid and counterproductive. And I believe that someone's house, whether it's temporary or not, the bottom line is if it's someone's house, that is a red line that you just don't cross. Now, when I posted this on my Facebook timeline, pretty much saying the things I'm saying here, um, a left wing acquaintance of mine kind of commented and said, "Oh, it's totally legitimate because his policies affect their lives." And we've just had quite a passionate but civil back and forth debate on this. Firstly, I think the so-called progressive left are very hypocritical because if you had a gay politician and a group of right-wing protesters going outside their house, the left would be up in arms and saying, "Oh, look at these horrible people! Look how intolerant they are." Now, these protesters say we want to welcome Mike Pence to Washington and show Washington's tolerance, but it's a bit of a contradictory message. And my left wing acquaintance said, "Oh, but they're not trying to change his mind," because I put that point to him. So then the extension is if they're not trying to change his mind on these issues, the purpose is solely to cause a nuisance. Because there's any number of other places they could be protesting. They could be protesting outside his office, outside the Capitol building. There's many places in the city centre. You know, the right to protest is an American right, and that's very important. But the right to live in peace and security is also a right, and that applies to everyone, whether it be high-ranking politicians or the average Jill or Joe on the street. The right to live in peace and security is actually a human right as well. And people can scoff at that and say, "Oh, they were just dancing, it was harmless." But in the end of the day, Mike Pence has two teenage daughters. Now, I can imagine that's quite intimidating to know there's a large number of people outside your house. And like I say, I don't know if he was in or not, but that's really beside the point because the protesters don't know that. If you have a large number of people outside your house who you know are hostile to your father, they may not be issuing threats, they may not be using violence, but that is intimidating. And it's just like protesters like this don't realize all they are doing is scoring an own goal. Sure, the regressive left will support them, and I do say regressive left in this situation because it's calling something progressive when it's the opposite. This isn't progressive, it's invading someone's private space. May not be inside his house, but the fact is it's on the boundary, it's outside, and it's a red line. And I apply that across the board. So it's just stupid, and frankly, there's hypocrisy in this as well because a lot of these people would be the very first to shout about Islamophobia and defend Muslim Americans. But what is notable about this protest, I didn't see a Muslim American in sight from the videos that I've seen. So where's the solidarity? I mean, that's just an interesting side point. Um, but in the end of the day, I'm not saying you have to agree with Mike Pence. I'm not saying that you have to accept his policies. Not for a second. By all means, protest his policies. But someone's house is a boundary. And that is just common sense. If you go outside someone's house to make a protest, that, as far as I'm concerned, is harassment. It doesn't matter who that person is. You know, I get strong opinions about a lot of subjects and a lot of people. Okay, I got very angry when the whole recession was going on, and you were getting super rich bankers getting massive bonuses on top of what they already earned. I think that was disgusting. But I remember at the time some people targeted their private homes, and it's not that I have much sympathy with them, but if you believe in something, you have to be consistent and you have to apply it across the board. So, in the end of the day, you can protest without going to someone's house. The sole reason to go to his house is strength in numbers. I think that is meant to be intimidating. You know, they can use flowery language and say it's all about peace and love and tolerance, but not if you're on the receiving end. So I'm not for a second saying I agree with Mike Pence's policies. You know, he's pretty conservative. I'm a centrist. But I do believe that the right to peace and security includes privacy in one's own home. By the way, since I'm on this point, I am dead set against journalists going up to people's doors and ramming a camera in their face to ask questions. I think that's appalling. The very irritating CNN correspondent, Jian Moos, actually made a video trying to defend this, where she was actually mocking Alec Baldwin for defending himself and his family against paparazzi. Um, Privacy is extremely important. This is one area I respect the French because I think they hold this quite dear. In Britain and America, we don't, and I think it's a very important thing. If someone's in a powerful position, sure, the decisions they make impact lives. I get that. I totally get that. But you can still protest, just not there. Protests outside the Capitol building, protests in the city centre, downtown, protest outside the VP office. I'm sure there's many places that they can protest. This is just a nuisance and it is clearly intended to harass. So let me know your thoughts. If you were involved in that, well, what's your excuse? I mean, what if the situation was turned around and a group of right wing protesters went outside your house? How would you feel? It's bullshit. And the left make a fool of themselves, I should say someone on the left, when they defend stuff like this. Because whilst they're shouting about bullying and tolerance, they're the ones who are showing none. You know, you can say this is a human rights issue, they're defending their human rights, but you know what? The right to live in peace and security is also a human right, which means not having large groups gathered outside your house to say how much they dislike you. Bullshit.